Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of Capital Conversations. We are excited to continue expanding upon our real estate investing topics to help you continue developing your education as a real estate investor. And this month's topic is due diligence. And it is one of the most important and one of the most overlooked parts of real estate investing. So by the end of this, our goal is for you to walk away with some confidence and clarity that most investors will or actually never develop. So what exactly is due diligence? Well, actually, let me back up a little bit. Sorry. My name's Brianna. I'm with Soul Investor Co. We have 𝗂𝘂 and we have Todd, and then they'll do their introductions as I introduce 𝗂𝘂 next, and then Todd will go a little bit more into depth into the topic. All right, so back to the topic at hand. What is due diligence? Due diligence is the process of thoroughly analyzing a property before closing to uncover any financial, legal, or structural or operational issues that could affect your investment. So putting it simply, it's just essentially doing your homework before you purchase a property, so that way you avoid any costly mistakes or anything that could turn your investment upside down. So you want to do due diligence so you're not inheriting any problems. That could be financial problems, that could be bad tenants, that could be back taxes, that could be foundation issues. There's an array of different issues that could come along with you not doing your due diligence. So you are basically just taking on these risks, and you just want to make sure you're not taking on anything that, like I said, is going to turn your investment upside down. So this is just extremely important for you to review. And then there are just four types of due diligence. So there's your physical due diligence, which I kind of talked about a little bit, where you want to hire a home inspector, but they're going to check things like the roof, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, look for some red flags that may be water damage, mold, pest, etc. They'll walk the property, take pictures, take videos. So just a little tip is to always do your due diligence on the physical aspect of the property. And it is like a best practice just to hire a home inspector, but you can also do it yourself if you know what you're looking for. Financial due diligence is the second type of due diligence, such as verifying, the profits, the losses, the income, the expenses, the forecasted returns, the rent rolls, making sure reviewing the utility, the insurance, property taxes, any repairs. You want to get the T12, etc. The third type is legal due diligence. So you can do title searches, liens, ownerships, look into zoning. Are there any easement issues? Sometimes those are things that could affect your investment. And then just verify any permits if there is any major work that needs to be done. And then the fourth type is just obviously tenant. That's a huge one. Reviewing the tenants that are currently in place. Are they paying their rent? Do they have lease agreements in place? Are they signed? Are they current? Are they enforceable? Are there security deposits that you may have to pay back? Looking at the payment history, are there any evictions pending? That sort of thing. So I will pass it over to 𝗂𝘂. She'll give you a little bit more information, and you can take it away, 𝗂𝘂.
Thank you, Brianna. I'm 𝗂𝘂 of Leaving a Legacy Investments. And again, here with Brianna and Todd to talk due diligence so we can make informed investing decisions. As you can see from Brianna's introduction, due diligence is a crucial process. It's crucial for both investors as well as for capital raisers. For investors, it's going to help you to assess any potential risk and rewards of an investment property. So this is how, as an investor, you can protect your capital because it puts you in a position to make a more informed decision before you get into a project or decide that is not even worth it to move forward with, and don't create that risk for your finances. So this is done through risk assessment by evaluating the property to identify potential problems, whether they are structural, legal, financial, or otherwise, right? And calculate the risk versus the rewards of the project with, if you're going into it as a sole purchaser or with your team, right, before completing the acquisition. You have to make informed decisions because you don't want to lose your money. You don't want to go into a property that will drain your finances and your resources. And at the end of the day, it's just not what you were looking for or giving you what you wanted as an investor. So you'll have a clear idea of the financials, operations, market position, and everything else once due diligence is complete. And that way, you can make the proper decision about the property. So again, this is how you're able to protect your investment, reduce the risk of future losses or any disputes, like 𝗂𝘀 mentioned, things like tenants, whether or not they're paying, if you have any bills overdue for the property, tax liens, etc. You can avoid those pitfalls through due diligence. And it will, just position you to negotiate wisely on the property and get the best terms that you can for the property acquisition. It's also super important for capital raisers who help investors find lucrative, sound investments. And it provides an opportunity to demonstrate the value and also to build credibility. It shows, as a capital raiser, it will show your potential investors the time and care that you've taken in vetting a property before deciding to finalize the investment and before deciding to present it to them or even go into a deal with them, allowing their money to be put up for that particular project. So being transparent and with your potential investors is one of the best ways to build credibility. We had a situation with Todd recently where we were looking at a property. Turns out it wasn't a good deal. He didn't think it was worth it. And the best thing was for him to be open and honest about that, because, you don't want to move forward just because you've already told someone, hey, we're looking at this property, and right, that it's kind of going to be a loss. So they're investing their money from the start in something that we don't even think is going to be lucrative. So being transparent and being able to say, listen, in the beginning, we thought this was a great deal. We ran the numbers. We did the due diligence. We've done all of these checks, and it turns out it's not. So let's not utilize our resources in this project because we don't think it's going to be a good deal, right? So it gives them a clear vision of the project, but it shows your value, that you're open and honest and intentional about the projects that you present to them and that you're willing to have them invest in. And that relationship is super important because it kind of determines people that want to work with you. They have to be able to trust you and know that they're going into good deals and feel confident about it. And once you have that relationship, that'll help them feel that way. It also shows that you're committed to mitigating any risks, right, that have come up during a due diligence process, solving any problems ahead of investing in a project, identifying any weaknesses, and revealing any areas for improvement. So proper due diligence, again, is crucial in securing funding by showing a project's current position, its potential, and also its readiness for any growth and success. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Todd, who is our due diligence expert, and he'll pretty much take us through the process using a project that we're working on now.
Thank you. So my name is Todd Snelling. I own a company called Big Bear Capital. My background is in accounting and finance. I did public and private accounting. I did public and private tax. I did auditing, which is kind of my favorite spots, and that was the big learning curve as I come into due diligence. It's kind of the same thing. I'm a self-proclaimed number nerd. Numbers are my favorite part of the deal. I would rather deal with numbers most of the time more than anything else because I think numbers tell a story. But this is due diligence. I'm going to talk about my past history with due diligence, the good and the bad, and some of the things to look for. So let's go back and try and remember where due diligence is in the apartment buying process. And this is kind of due diligence. You can do it for a single family home, but in this case, we're going to primarily talk about multifamily. You've submitted a letter of intent, and it's been accepted by the buyer. I'm sorry, by the seller. I am the buyer. Once the terms have been worked out, we've had an attorney draw up the purchase and sale agreement. Inside that purchase and sale agreement will be a request for due diligence, and it'll lay out certain dates when due diligence begins, when due diligence ends. As part of that request, you will see, once they agree to the dates and times, you may see an extension on due diligence. You may see a renegotiation after due diligence, excuse me. An attorney will work out all that. But this due diligence period, this time frame, and I'll go over it a little bit more, is very critical as you go through your buying process. This is kind of the technical term. It's a critical step, multifamily investing, all this stuff, all the risks. But really what due diligence is you are going to double check anything and everything in your new purchase. You're going to crank up your BS meter, and you're going to go in with a certain mentality, and that mentality is this: I have the right to look at every document related to this building, every space related to this building, and I'm going to see if you're telling me the truth. I don't believe what a broker says. I don't believe what a seller says. I don't believe what an attorney says. This is where I get to come in and go through your books and literally go through your apartment complex and see if I see any problems. It kind of falls into these main areas. One of the things I'll do in due diligence, I will send a required list of documents from my broker, or from myself, or from my broker to their broker, and says, this is what I need. One of the other things I'll do, I will set up an online file management sharing system with members of my general partnership, and we will begin to assign tasks as these numbers come in. It's important that in your PSA, that your due diligence period does not start until you have every document that you agreed to. You don't want somebody to slow roll you on a certain key document and then get the end of due diligence and not have time to look at it. So let's talk about how this may look. Day one, I submit an LOI and they say, yeah, we'll take your LOI. I kick it to my attorney. He's busy. He goes back and forth with their attorney, and they say, okay, 3 weeks later, we have an agreement. The current deal that I'm working on, the PSA took almost 3 months. And it has to go back and forth. What's acceptable to them? What's acceptable to us? And on the 27th, day 27, I send a document. That document then is picked up, reviewed, and documents start coming to me, and I start disseminating those documents to my general partnership team. And we come up with a plan on how to review them. One of the things we'll talk about is the site visit to the property. I'll go into that detail. When we come back from a site visit and we're confident that we've looked at everything in due diligence, if an issue comes up, this is where you would go back to the seller and say, look, you never disclosed this to us. You basically gave us false pretenses. We need to maybe renegotiate. I'll go through that a little bit too on what's happened to me. Then you'll see the other deals. Once you're confident your due diligence period ends, that should say 95 and not 86 or 85, excuse me. So the first thing we're going to ask for. Now, some of this is probably going to be like, wow, really? Because they are boring to read, okay? I want a copy of all tenant leases and all lease agreements in the building. I'm looking at purchasing 45 units in one building that's got 54 artist studios and another 19 apartments. That's almost 120 leases. I have to read all of those leases. I want to know that Faya, who stays in room 104, I need to know if she gets a $200 rent deduction because she mows the lawn. And that goes to my underwriting. Reading leases is one of the most incredibly boring things. Another thing that's in a lease will be your deposits. If your leases total $35,000 in deposits, that $35,000 belongs to me and my investors at closing. I don't want $30,000. I want 35. So we go through all the lease and all the lease guarantees. So Faya can't say, well, I've been mowing the grass. I get a $200 discount for the next 2 years because I mow the grass. Things like that. That's what pops up. The land title survey, all the environmental reports. I want to make sure that I'm buying something that's not sitting on an oil well, or maybe I do if it's oil, but you know what I'm saying. If it's a gas station, there's gas in the ground or whatever else. I want to know if I want to know if this building's being sued, if it has problems with the city. I want to know if it has problems with any like real estate associations. I want to know if, somebody fell down and now they're suing. Are they suing the building? Are they suing the owners? I want to know that. This is the ultimate nerdy thing. You really need to have a guy that really can get into financials. But I want the past 3 years of your T12, reanimated T12s. I want 3 years of those. I want a copy of the most recent tax bill. I generally can get that from the city itself. I want a copy of the rent rolls. I want to see who's paying rent accordingly. And as this deal moves forward, let's say in due diligence, I'm 2 or 3 months away from closing, I will ask for rent rolls. I will ask for other documents every month until we close. You're not going to try and sell me something in March and then quit operating. And then in August, I have a problem because you failed to operate it in a certain way. I want a delinquency report. I want to see who's late. And I want a copy of their insurance policy the last 2 years. Financial due diligence goes on. Have they had an insurance claim, bank statements, a recent appraisal, all the security bots held by the seller, because that's going to match up against our leases. I want to see tenant ledgers, and I want to see general ledgers. Some of these are non-negotiables. A lot that's in the finance field, if they can't produce it, more than likely I'm walking away from the deal. Operational. We'll assign somebody to operational. I want to know any and all maintenance agreements and contracts on the property. I'm told that there is a laundry service company that has some of the worst contracts in America. I don't want to be stuck with them. I want to know what's on the property. I want a copy of all the utility bills. I want a copy of all warranties, because if you installed 10 HVACs last year and they're under warranty, I want that warranty. And I want a copy of all maintenance, repair, and work orders. Has the owner quit repairing things? That's going to be my problem in August. I want to see where they're at with that. The warranty issue on my most recent deal has become large, because what our roof inspector has said is the roof was installed improperly. If the roof's installed improperly, it should be warranted. If it's not, it's $100,000. That's a big deal. That is incredibly big deal for you as an investor or anything else. Capital expenditures, they'll say, hey, Todd, we put 12 decks on last year. That's great. They look fantastic. Did you get a permit for that? Well, no. Well, that's a problem, because you should get a permit. I want a copy of the permits. I want to see vacancy rates. I want to know what property I get with this. Do I get all the lobby furniture? Do I get all the yard signs? Things like that. And the tenants, I'll get more into tenants and stuff like that, but any money owed to any 30 outside parties, things like that. I want to know about my tenants, how long they've been there. I'll see that in lease, but Unit 105 has been there for 15 years, and Unit 106 has been there for 6 months, and they've had the cops called on 5 times. Stuff I want to know. Here's the big thing. As a GP team, right away, you're going to set an inspection date to go to the property. You're going to call the broker on the other side, the seller's broker, and say, we want to come to the property on May 15th. We want access to every room on the property. We want access to every space. And we're going to bring certain inspectors with us. On the most recent one that I did last month, I brought a property management team that we were interviewing. I brought a roof inspector. I brought an elevator inspector, because the building had an elevator. I brought a sewer guy to scope the sewers. And I brought a general building engineer. I wanted him to walk around. Now, you may also see the seller bring his people. So now, last month, I'm walking in downtown Petersburg, Virginia, with 15 different people. But they say, well, this is too many people. No, this is the people that I want on scene. I am the buyer. You are the seller. This is my deal. It is a mentality that you need to have as a buyer and say, this is what I need. If you do not give me access to it, then we have a breaking point in our PSA. And they know that. In this particular deal, we looked at every building and we have a plan. Every GP member, if I'm taking Brianna and Faya on my GP team, they are assigned a certain task. And we go down all these tasks to ensure everything is done. One of the things we will do is we will photograph and video every space in the building. And when I mean every space, every unit, every closet, every hallway. I just took a screenshot of what our online file management system says about due diligence photos. And we broke it down in this way. Commercial units, some of these have commercial units on the first floor, including a Thai restaurant that was in business. I got to go back into the Thai kitchen and take pictures. There was a hair salon. I got to go in there. The exterior of the building, hallways, all the units, and roof. So when I say all the units, I mean every room's documented. So this is kind of how we did it. I took my 16-year-old son with me. He had a clipboard. That clipboard says cleanliness of the apartments. I want to see that the HVAC is working. I want to see there's no problems with the roof, leaks around the toilet. So here's how we do it. We take a picture of the door. Okay? And then we go in with the seller's representative and we videotape and photograph every space in the building. This is an incredibly intrusive thing for the residents. Most residents, when you go due diligence, are told that we're from the finance company. They don't want to be told that this building could be sold because they get worried. But you are definitely, in some cases, unwanted in their house, and rightfully so. So this is just one of the buildings we looked at. I took this picture because I see wear and tear on the cabinets. Is that indicative of something else that I need to look for? Or is this just this person kind of messy? Right? I mean, this is something we'll talk about as a GP team. So this is an apartment. This is how this person, and I'll go through these pictures again, but the whole purpose of this is to come back and say, hey, Faya, room 105 had a roof leak. And she'd be like, okay, I didn't get to see that. Well, here it is right here. It's documented right here. So that's kind of how we hit every room. A plan is critical when we talk about due diligence. I, being kind of a number nerd, will take pictures of stuff like this. This is the fire suppression system in one of the buildings. Things like this are important because these things all have a cost, either to maintain or to repair. They have to go in your underwriting, and you have to know that you've accounted for it. So when I'm sitting here in Ohio and I need to know how much I got a budget, I'm going to call this a VES fire detection system and say, hey, let's just say, but I also should see a bill. Again, I took a picture of this. This is the generator. It's got to be maintained. So once we come out of due diligence, what happens when we have an issue? In my most recent deal, we have two issues going on. One is the roof. An inspector said it's been installed improperly. The other is an elevator. As a result of our elevator repair, we learned, because I know nothing about elevators, that a traction elevator will shut down after 1 million trips. It has to have a major a major maintenance program done to it at 1 million trips. And by the way, a trip from floor 1 to 5 is 5 trips. This elevator had 911 trips. This elevator needs that repair done now. That repair is $40,000. So we go back to the seller and we go, you failed to disclose that this roof is that bad, and you failed to disclose this elevator needs a $40,000 repair. What are you going to do about it? You're either going to fix it, or you're going to give me a reduction in price so I can fix it. And that's kind of Most of the time, this roof thing is a warranty issue, will probably be taken care of, and we will negotiate probably the repair for the elevator. But these kind of things hang up. Last year, I went to a property in North Carolina, did my site visit, and spent a lot of time on financials, and could not get to a number that someone I trusted in the industry was getting to on the deal, because he was selling it. And it went back and forth for a week, and on the last day of due diligence, I backed out of the deal. That's what I think Brianna or 𝗏𝘂 talked about. I sent an email to my investors and said, hey, I think now we've got to walk away. We can't prove it. That's why due diligence is so important. If you as a capital raiser or you as an investor want to know about the deals that you're speaking for, just ask for the person about their due diligence process. If they say, oh, you know, it's pretty comprehensive, say, can you explain it to me, like how you'll do it? It is a long, arduous, time-consuming, manpower-consuming process, but is necessary. So that's kind of how due diligence works. I mean, I've probably talked for about a half hour or something like that, or maybe 20 minutes. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. Ask the right questions of your GP team. How are you doing due diligence? What are you going to do if you have a problem? Who's your attorney? What's your attorney say if you have a problem? These are easy conversations to have. And if there's not a good answer, I would walk away from that deal. Can I answer any questions for anybody? Somebody's got to have questions, please.
I have a question.
Okay.
You were talking about checking for, I remember you saying something about the oil.
Yes.
Or gold, or I can't remember what you said, Todd, but I was like, how do you check for that? I'm curious.
So there's an environmental study that's done. Okay. And that is called a phase 1 and phase 2. It is done by a separate company that goes back and researches the ground, maybe takes soil samples. These are very expensive reports if one's never been done, but they are very necessary. You basically want to know if the property that you're owning is contaminated. It is a huge deal. It is an incredibly large deal. So you ask for a copy of their reports. These two buildings that we're looking at were renovated in 2010 and 14. They had these reports.
Is that generally, does a seller usually have those? I mean,
yes, usually they do.
Okay, curious. I hadn't heard of those.
I've heard outrageous numbers for these reports. Typically a phase 1, but if something's found in phase 1, they have a phase 2. It gets really expensive. Most of like the Alta land title survey for the property, that'll go to your attorney that's closing the deal, your title attorney that's closing the deal. He'll dig into that or whatever else. An interesting story about legal. So one of the property I walked away from had a parking lot across the street that all the tenants used. It's just easier access to walk in another building. It was not my property. It was his property. He just didn't care. I had to go. We were going to go talk to him. I never got to. And say, hey, look, do you care if these people, can you put it in writing? Because if you take away their parking, then I got to find another place for people to park. So things like that pop up. The delinquency report is important because you need to find out who your bad tenants are. I probably have in our due diligence folder now, I would guess I have somewhere in the 1,000-page documents, probably 600 pictures. And that doesn't include a lot of stuff our attorneys are doing. Does anybody else have any questions?
If no one else does, I definitely have a few questions, Todd.
Okay.
So you've done due diligence a number of times. For someone who is new to this process, is there some sort of baseline checklist or something that they can follow to make sure they're kind of dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's? Because how would you know every single document you should be asking for and every single thing you should be looking at?
So I took in this presentation from my list. Those things are the things that I typically ask for.
Okay.
You can use things like that from my list, but then you also got to think of what's site specific for the property. Every property is different. Every property has its own issues, maybe. That's why when I step foot on the property, I will take pictures of things that bother me, or they were paving a road in front of or in the back of one of our buildings, and it looked like the water was just going to rush away. Things like that I would look at. Your plan, though, for due diligence, your site visit should be done way before you get there. Everybody knows what they're doing. We start at 8 o'clock in the morning. We walk all day. To dig further into your questions, it's tough. I don't see how you would do due diligence on a large property alone. It's just too much. You get with the right team, you hold each other accountable, because this is the one thing they'll tell you how good your team is and who does the work on your team. If you have to be, well, you have to be organized. You have to know where these documents are, because you may get multiple ones. You're going to get monthly financial statements now for the next 3 or 4 months. Those have to be categorized, looked at, planned for. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any questions?
I was just going to add a note. So something that I've learned and have done a little bit of when doing due diligence is just checking in with the tenants too. Like just being like, hey, how is it like living here? Do you like it? There's having conversations with them can sometimes bring up things that the sellers don't know, or that the sellers don't want to tell you. So have you had any experience where you were able to have any conversations, or is that something that is a little bit more stickier for you when you're walking into the larger properties? How is that?
Yeah, so most sellers do not want you to tell people that you're thinking of buying the building. Usually the representative stays right with you when you go through them. A lot of the cases, people weren't home. In our most recent one, there were some people that are home. There was one lady that just didn't even want to get out of bed. But we came in her house, we took our pictures and left. On other deals, I'll ask some of the neighbors. I stayed at a hotel in Mount Airy, and I asked her about the hotel. I asked her about the apartment complex, what she thought of it, what her friends thought of it, would she live there. I do ask people in the community that are relatively close. It's tough, though, when you're the broker's guy walking around with you.
Todd, can you speak to, I think we all know, like have a really good understanding, like you went in really depth, and it seems like it is a lot of work. So just the benefit of being a part of like the deals that you do. So being a limited partner, investing in the deals that you're doing. So that way we don't have to go out and do all this on our own.
Yeah, so that's really good. I'm going to stop sharing here so we can talk. And currently the deals that I'm in, I am the general partnership. I am responsible for executing the deal, closing the deal, helping raise money on the deal. I am responsible for asset management and also the exit of the deal. Limited partnerships, the limited partners, they invest their money and they remain part of the deal. They have an equity stake in the deal. We report to them. They get paid first, and they're briefed on how the deal is going. So let me give you an example. Let's say that Brianna came in and she invested $100,000 in my deal. In the current deal that I'm working at, more than likely she would get quarterly emails in her investment portal, but she's also going to get bi-weekly emails, probably from me personally. Hey, this is what's going on with the property. We fired our property management, but the asset management team is now hiring a new one. Everything else is going good. Returns are looking like they should. Revenue is strong. You may also get an email from me that says, hey, there's nothing new to report. We're doing good. You don't want to be left out in the park. So the difference between the general partnership and limited partnership, sorry, I'm kind of a tangent there. The general partnership executes the deal. The limited partnership puts money into the deal. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yes, it does. It looks like we have another question. Were you going to say something? Sorry.
I was just going to read the question in the chat, but it's the one from Natasha. So Todd, how long did it take for you to form a team you trust, from your partners on deals to skilled talent, plumbers, carpenters, roofers, etc., that show up or travel across country for inspection? And what advice would you give to begging investors in that space? Beginning investors in that space.
So most of the people that we take, so the GP team consisted of, there's 5 members on this current GP team. We took 4 of them to Virginia. We laid out our plan, and we hired all inspectors from the Virginia area. We want local people generally who know the area. I was in charge of the elevator person. I know a lot about elevators that I never knew existed. But I actually had to hire someone from Richmond to come to Petersburg to inspect the elevators. The roofer, the building inspector, they all work for you because you are paying them out of your pocket on that day. We hired a local team to scope the sewers, to run a camera down. And when he got done with that, he approached me with his little iPad and he wanted my credit card. So I paid $650 out of it. These guys work for you. They'll give you a written report, and then you can go back and take it. Our roofing guy says, you need to replace this roof. Their roofing guy says, no, you don't. So now there's a third party that's going to come in, and he's going to say, you're going to have to replace this roof. I know that's what he's going to say. Beginning investors, if you're coming on the limited partner side, the limited partner side is an excellent way to learn about it. Right. So, Natasha, if you invested and said, hey, I don't understand anything about roofs, or that's great. But when I come back to you and say, hey, Natasha, our TPO roof was not installed correctly. TPO is like a rubber membrane roof. And we found out today that the manufacturer may have to warranty it. That's probably how you learn the most, is by working with the GP team that you trust, because they're going to share. A good GP team will communicate with you and you'll learn a lot. Just like this call, you know what I mean? You do a couple of these due diligence calls, and then you get on some of these quarterly messaging systems, you would learn a lot. You would learn a lot. You don't have to do it all yourself. That's the biggest thing I would tell people. That's the biggest thing. I know nothing about roofs, so I'm hiring a roofing expert. I know nothing about the law. I hire an attorney. Does that answer your question?
I think definitely the LP, you do learn a lot that way. She did have a follow-up question. GP or?
GP, a general partnership, LP, limited partnership. That Ohio accent.
So, hey, Natasha.
Thank you, Todd.
No problem whatsoever. And the other thing I would just finish on, when you step on that property, this is your deal. This is not the broker's deal. This is your deal. I want to see the basements. Yeah, there's nothing down there. I want to see the basements. So we go to the basements. It's kind of a mentality. Make sure that whatever group you invest with has that mentality. I'm not trying to be a you-know-what here, but that's kind of how you got to look at things to make sure you get what you want. So, yes.
What would you say are some major red flags that you look for where you're just like, this is probably a deal breaker? Like, is there anything that sticks out in your mind?
If I would listen to my inspectors. So my inspector in the elevator said it's a $40,000 repair. I'm like, $40,000 for what? I don't know anything about elevators, but he says that's what it costs. The biggest red flag for me is, are you going to give me the documents I asked for? This is a place that you can dump them. Don't slow roll these documents, because I'm technically not going to schedule my site visit until I see almost all these documents. So if you don't want to give me your financial statements last 3 years, if they say, well, we got last year's, but we can't find the other 2. Well, did you file taxes? You had to file taxes on them. So that's a major red flag. Some of these things in here, particularly as they come to due diligence, Brianna, are deal breakers. Tenant leases. If they are not given to you, it's a deal breaker. if your 3 years operating statement, that's a deal breaker. Copy the most recent T12 financials, the rent roll, and then I want them every month until we close. That's a deal breaker. Because if you're not going to cooperate on me, the next thing I'm going to think about is what are you hiding?
Or like some of the things we've seen reviewing some of the properties where when the numbers just don't add up. The numbers in their documents that they've given us don't even make sense. And they have no responses for, you know, why the numbers are botched. Is it an error, or, you know, you trying to pull a fast one and hoping we just don't read every single line and don't catch it? So, yeah.
There's also, and that's a great point, because as an underwriter, I get into it a lot of time with brokers on the topic of insurance. I'm here in the Midwest. We are probably between $650 and $850 a door, upwards to $1,000 a door. So when your financial statement tells me that you paid $150 a door the last 2 years, that's a problem. And then everybody gets defensive. But when you start confronting them, you see where they're at or whatever. I've seen financial statements that are added incorrectly to make it look like the net income is higher than it actually is. So you really, I mean, it's on you and the GP team. I pulled up another thing, one of the slides I had. One of the things we asked for 3 months of bank statements for the LLC. Some companies will give you all their LLC corporate structures, and you'll get 90 documents of 5 different LLCs that are substructures of some other substructures to try and carpet bomb you and bury you in paperwork. That's something else you have to watch out for. And if you guys have any due diligence questions or anything else, you can always reach out to me. Generally, you know, the property's been underwritten many times before you get to due diligence. You kind of know if you're excited to go into this place or not. I don't waste my time. I don't waste my time without a good underwriting file, a good PSA. I don't waste my time.
Hey, Todd.
Yes.
You said, is it on this particular property, or were you just using it as an example with the roof?
It is on this particular property.
Yeah, and what do you think is going to happen?
So the roofing inspector, there were 3 different roofs to look at the way the buildings are set. He loved 2 of them. He hated one. He goes, this was installed incorrectly. The owner says, no, it's installed correctly because it was reinstalled in 2010. Most rubber structure roofs have a 25-year warranty. What I learned is that roofing membrane has a name on it, the name of the manufacturer. When that roof is complete, a representative from that manufacturer climbs on that roof and says, this is good. My company will warranty this for 25 years. So somebody, the seller or the manufacturer, not Todd, is going to pay for a new roof. Todd may have to write a check for it, but he's going to get the money from the seller. Because this is a $10 million deal. We're down to $100,000, right? This is a mistake made under the watch of, this is how we would say it to him. This is a mistake made under your watch. This should have been disclosed to us. We would have underwrote the deal different. So now our attorneys and their attorneys are saying, just give us a few more time. And I'll say, okay, that's fine, but I need to extend my due diligence period now. The elevator is an interesting story because the elevator was just a guy looking at the counter. This guy pays for an elevator service company, so he's going to be mad that he's now got to pay $40,000. That is a surprise to him that should have been disclosed to him a year ago. That happened on your watch, Cindy, and I'm just using Cindy as an example. You have to pay for it. You did not. You failed to disclose that to us. So that's kind of where we're at. But this happens. I mean, it happens. I know other roofs are good. But I mean, this could happen to anything. We have the sewer scope. That is a huge thing. But when you look at a building, how are the sewers? How are they connected? We paid a guy to run a camera down there just to look at it. And I've got sewer scope footage. that I can't, that's all dark. I don't know what it means, but the guy's like, it's good. So that's how I rely on the experts.
We need popcorn for that movie.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I'll tell you what, that happened to me. Actually, I did a sewer scope with my partner, and we did the sewer scope ourselves. And it got to the end, we thought, right? So we bought this property and we did a flip and had the contract because we didn't know, you don't know what you're looking at, right? You do need somebody for that. I'll never do that again. And comes to find out where it stopped, that was where the break was. And we had to have that repaired. Then when they repair it, they go in and they continue on. There was another break, and that was under a main road. In order to repair that, we had to pay $15,000 to close the road. And we literally, I have a video of myself leaving the site. They're throwing the dirt back into the hole, and I'm on my way to closing. Literally, it was just like that close. So I hear you.
How big of a unit was that for, Cindy?
It was a single family home.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a learning experience for sure. So definitely things, but
see, for me, especially right now, this is the beauty of being a limited partner, right? I get to throw some money at the investment. All the experts have done all the work for me, for the most part. And then like the investments that we're on together, we get the emails with what's going on, and you do learn a lot from those emails. Like, oh, there was a fire, so now all of these things have to happen before something else happens to move forward, right? So there are a lot of lessons in going through as a limited partner first. Also, I just don't have time to be a general partner. And then we sit on the phone with Todd, and he gives us all the information anyway because we work together. So that's super helpful. Even with this deal that we're talking about. Todd, quick question on that. What is the close of capital raising for this project?
I mean, what's required? I mean, what is the down payment required? Is that what you asked?
So down payment, but also by when are you trying to have the money raised?
So we need to raise $2.5 million. And this isn't a typical value add opportunity. It is a stabilized asset that cash flows from day one. We will take an existing 8,000 square foot wedding venue that's not been operated in 5 years and basically turn that on to generate net income that'll skyrocket.
So that's income not even in the numbers that you're looking at. Yeah.
So if you were to see the pitch deck, you would see a 2.3 equity multiple that doesn't include revenue from the wedding space. So we're not putting in 100 toilets and 100 sets of cabinets. We're flicking a switch, and we'll do a master lease option to some wedding planner in Petersburg, Virginia. And it's a bad term, but just start collecting checks on that. Because there is no accompanying space to that. I'm paying the utilities on that anyway.
Gotcha.
I'm just now going to get a revenue. And if you work the numbers, you think about a typical wedding venue. I could probably show you a picture of it. When you think of a typical wedding venue, it's somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000. It's one of the biggest days of people's lives. If you think about that, and if you did that once a week for $7,000, and you did that times 40 weeks a year, that's $280,000. That's almost a 21% bump to the net operating income year one. Yeah, so I will show you pictures of my wedding venue. Just to give you
Did you say when the close date was, Todd? Did you mention?
No, I'm sorry, I never got around to answering 𝗫's question.
Oh, okay.
So we need to raise $2.5 million. And we hope to have it closed by the 3rd week of June. That's what the current PSA says. So that's kind of what we're leaning towards. Give me 1 second. I'll pull up pictures so you can see what this wedding venue looks like, because
Yeah, this since we spoke about it, I've been thinking about it quite a bit, and I think like you said, with the casino being built there, Petersburg, since I like personally know it, it's very much being built up from what it was. It was very old. Think Color Purple. It was very old, um just like shops and stores downtown there, like hair salons and a barbecue place and things like that. But they're building up a lot out there, so I can see it being generating quite a bit of income. Then with the university and things like that, the schools that they have out there within close proximity, those are probably all add to just like the value in just generating business there.
yeah, so this is the roof that's in question. This is one of the buildings, and this U shape is a roof that's in question. This is the other building that we're buying. So we'd buy this building and this building. And this is adjacent to the Hotel Petersburg, in which somebody spent $23 million on and renovating this property.
They waiting for that casino.
I'm sorry, if I what?
I said they have to be waiting for that casino to put that.
Yes. There's a casino coming about 9 minutes down the road that they expect will bring in $2.5 billion. They expect the average wage of a casino worker to be $70,000. This is 100 feet away, rooftop deck. This is on Hotel Petersburg website. It's a lady in a bridal gown. They have no place to do a wedding, and this would be our wedding venue. This is currently being used by an artist studio. But these two boxes here are filled with tables and chairs. That's kind of looking the opposite direction. Bridal suites, there are commercial warming stuff, ice machines that you could support your catering stuff on it. We just plan to flick the switch and open this up.
Nice.
And these are kind of the apartments. I mean, these are kind of some of the other pictures we took. This is their model, or this is the one being moved into that day. And I can go over this with anybody that really wants to see the pitch on this. We know Lego's bringing $366 million. This, I think, 𝗫𝘃 is 15 minutes, 20 minutes down the road, I think.
Let me just tell you, I love Legos. So every time I go down here to my aunt's house, I'm going to see some Legos.
Yeah, apparently this is like an injection molding facility. So I guess this is where you're going to make them.
Oh, man.
But I do have a crazy idea that we could do the opening night of the Lego factory.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Right there. Invite kids in, you know what I mean? One side kids that play with their Legos. Be good for Petersburg. Yeah, so the casino broke ground March 20th, I believe. It's not like they're getting ready to vote on it. They are digging dirt and installing it. Yeah, they said, just saw the other day that this is about 20-30 minutes right south of Richmond. I always get that.
Yeah, it's not even 30 minutes, honestly, from Richmond.
Just so Richmond's like one of the highest or hottest markets for single family homes. But this kind of pitch deck, if anybody would like to see this separately, I can run it through. These are our artist lofts that are making a killing. Wax Studios, and this is the GP team. These are the people that went to Virginia, climbed on the roofs. It's always good if you have a guy that's close. This deal's in Virginia. I'm about 8 hours away. Marco here is about 20 minutes away. So we'll have an asset management team that'll oversee the property manager, and then if something should happen, Marco can be there in 20 minutes.
And minimum investment we should be looking for
50,000.
Okay.
This is, if you don't know, this is called a pitch deck. It's a short summary of who's involved in the deal, what the operational plan is, the deal, what the money's being used for. These are the people that you'll hold accountable as part of your general partnership. You know, you would have access to me through Brianna and 𝗫𝘃 and Cindy and whoever else, and they would just call me up and say, hey, what's going on with Petersburg? But you should have communication for that. But yeah, that's just called a pitch deck.
Thank you, Todd. That was so informative. You always teach us new things for
Every
sure.
time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we are happy to help you.
And as this is an active project, if you are interested in investing or helping with capital for the project, just let us know, whoever invited you or which one of our emails you have or contact information, which we'll make sure you all have, and we can get you in touch. Usually, honestly, for me, myself, because I'm a bit newer to the game, I provided the pitch deck to people, but I'll do a video call with Todd because he knows the ins and outs of the properties, and I want to be able to answer any questions instead of having the pitch deck and I'm on a call with someone and they have all these questions and I'm like, let me write that down and call Todd and we'll get back to you, right? Like, Todd will make time and kind of get on the call and make sure all the questions are answered, as far as all these things, due diligence, what's going on in the neighborhood that's going to help to generate income, what that looks like for the future, what your returns look like, what you have to put in to see those returns, etc. So just let us know. And anything else, like any other questions you have, topics, we always want this to be a conversation because our goal is a lot of us are still learning. So our goal is to help others that are still learning do exactly that, right? So throw the topics at us or throw the topics up during these conversations. We're happy to get experts on a call to give you the information, especially if it's things that we are not the experts in. And we're just always here to keep learning and growing.
Thank you. This was a great episode. Thanks, guys.
Let me make sure there are no more questions in the nope.
If you have any follow-up questions, just let me know.
Yeah, so we'll send out an email and make sure everyone has all of our contact information. And even if you're not looking to be a part of this particular project, if you have questions or anything like that, just shoot those things over to us and we'll be happy to help and get you information.